All right, thank you. Welcome to our first school board meeting of this brand new school year. It's good to have you all tonight. And at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and all school board members and the superintendent are present. And at this time, as we call the meeting order, would you join me in a moment of silence? And as we enter into a moment of silence, please feel free to pray. And I'm asking you especially to pray for the family of Steve Moore. And, we suffered a tragedy a couple of Mondays ago, and pray not only for his wife, but also pray for his co-workers, his fellow bus drivers, bus garage, and also the students that rode his bus, if you would. Let's have a moment of silence. Thank you very much. If you're able to stand, and let's say our pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. You may be seated. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Lamb made the motion. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Ms. Davis seconded. All in favor, let me know by lifting hand. All board members were in favor. The agenda is adopted. Item 2 is communications, and we've got some recognitions tonight.
We do. I'd like to invite all of the board members to join us over at the, the recognition area. Tonight, we get to recognize the Garrard Middle School archery team, and they've had an outstanding year. So if all of the members of the team will come up, we'd like to take an opportunity to say some things about you and then present you with some certificates. So if you'll join the board members over there, that'd be great. On the screen, you see a list of all of the individuals who participated this year, and I will tell you this, I would not want to face them in any kind of competition. If you'll take a look as we walk through today, I just want you to be aware of what the team has accomplished this year. As a team, they finished 2nd in 3D and 5th in bullseye at the state level, which is very impressive. They went on, if I can get this to move, to nationals and finished 25th out of 252 in bullseye and 16th out of 152 in 3D. And again, I'm telling you, that's pretty phenomenal when you think about the level of competition that is. And then at Worlds, 16th out of 60 and 5th out of 62. Very impressive. I think he's deserving of a round of applause. One of my favorite movies of all time is Lord of the Rings, and the elves in there are pretty good. And I think if they ever do a remake, all of you all should try out, because they wouldn't have to do any kind of special effects. I'm sure you all can knock that out. So once again, we'd like to congratulate them on how they've represented Garrard County and how they represented themselves. And we look forward to what they do this year. I'm sure some of them moved on up to the high school, but that's okay. I'm sure we've got some 6th graders who joined, and they'll continue to do great things. So congratulate them one more time, and I'll ask a couple of individuals to remain after that. You guys can have a seat. Oh, you also got a distributor. If CJ Walker and Eli Lamb will hang around for a second, we want to talk about them specifically as well. congratulations to parents and guardians. I know it's a challenge sometimes to make sure kids are where they're supposed to be, so thank you for what you did. All right, you guys feel free to have a seat. And CJ and Eli, if you'll hang around just for a second, we'd like to recognize you. So just as impressive were some individual results, and if you look at the state competition, you see that CJ Walker finished first in 3D and fourth in bullseye, and Eli Lamb finished third in 3D. So competition was really not against anybody else, it was just against themselves, which is very, very impressive. So we congratulate them on that. They went on to nationals, and like I said, the competition was among themselves, not anybody else. First and second in 3D, and CJ fourth place in bullseye. Again, just incredible that we are sending kids from here to do that kind of stuff at that level. And then we go on to Worlds, and Eli placed second in 3D there. So congratulations to these two gentlemen for being exceptional archers. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations. Our next recognition tonight is for the Fran Award for 2024-25, and that's Miss Carolyn Sparks. So Ms. Sparks, if you would come up. Ms. Sparks was presented this award on opening day at her school, which is CDR. And it was a great experience for all of us who got to be there, because once the staff heard who the winner was, they immediately gave Ms. Sparks a standing ovation. The staff recognizes how important and valuable Ms. Sparks is to CDR. And in comments written by the many people who nominated her for the award, you heard over and over about her commitment, passion, and love for CDR. They all recognized the extra hours she put in during a time that CDR was short on custodial help, and her hard work and dedication were not missed, even though she spent no time drawing attention to her own efforts. It's an honor to recognize Ms. Sparks again tonight for her service to our school and to our district. So thank you. And board members, if you just stay there for a second. We're going to make one slight change. I'm allowed to do this because this is a regularly scheduled board meeting. Just wanted to point something out to you guys and to everybody who's here tonight. The new video boards at the football, soccer, track complex, the baseball field, the softball field, and for those of you that don't know, soon to be the GMS gym, have been exciting additions to our district. Daktronics is planning to do a video highlighting what Garrard County is doing with our boards, and they will host a national training event at GCHS next summer. Digital signs in front of every school have given us a chance to begin to celebrate students and staff, not just function as a calendar of events. Golden Rule signs did a promotional video of what we do with the boards to show other districts how to capitalize on this type of opportunity. KSBA regional events the past 2 years, with one more to come, that garnered statewide recognition and applause for our focus on students and our engagement of board members. And our first annual Hall of Fame induction was identified by the participants and their family as a top-of-the-line event that was as good as they have ever seen. And there's a common denominator in all of these exciting endeavors, and that's Sydney Ray. So she's been Sydney is our outstanding behind-the-scenes orchestrator of what others get to see publicly. When a player or family is excited because the student's picture or video is on a digital screen at our athletic complex or in front of our school, Sydney was the creator. When KSBA participants ooh and ah at the spinning wheel that awards prizes, Sydney was the creator. And when the Hall of Fame participants left with their jaws on the floor, it was because of Sydney. Tonight, we recognize Sydney Ray in front of everyone for all she does behind the scenes that most people never know about. This is our behind the scenes award to Cindy. And I always ask Cindy to do things, but I'm telling her, you have to post this on the website. Okay? All right, thank you all.
All right. What a great way to start out the school board meeting and just begin. Isn't that awesome? All right, next on the agenda is communications. We've had the recognitions. Item B is site-based decision-making minutes. I hope my colleagues have had an opportunity to look over those. Item C is audience comments.
We received no requests.
No request.
Yes, sir.
Any board member? Okay, then we bring it to our superintendent. You want to share?
Sure, I'm glad to do so. First thing that we'll share tonight is the update of the bonding capacity. You'll notice that borrowing rates went up by 0.1%. And so your capacity declined by about $35,000. Again, we'll continue to keep you up to date on this on a monthly basis.
Thank you, sir.
And we have included the personnel changes that have occurred since this past July. Obviously, we're in school now, and we're in a really great spot as far as our personnel goes. But that's all connected there, so you can take a look at it anytime you'd like to.
Thank you, sir. Under reports, item A is treasurer's report.
You all have received that and have a chance to review it. And obviously, Ms. Coffey is available to you at any time that you have questions about that. And we've attached all of the bills that you've approved through the last month in one location so that you have access to that and the community has access to it as well.
And also the Hall of Fame guidelines revision.
So we wanted to speak to that tonight. We shared those with you last month, and this is actually an opportunity for you all to have some communication among yourselves as we get ready to do the second round of the Hall of Fame. We wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to make any adjustments if you had any. We're going to try to keep track of that tonight as you have this conversation. And then we hope to, at the end, during the action agenda, to actually let you adopt what those are so that the committee can begin working on the second round. We made a couple of recommendations. I say we, the committee made a couple of recommendations. So if you had a chance to look at those, one of the areas was a removal of the student rep. As adults, we even struggle with how to find the right people, and to ask a student to be a participant in that was probably not our smartest move as we looked back at it. What we would like to do, or what we are proposing instead, is that we retain a retired teacher as being a member, but then add another community member. So those were recommendations that we wanted to suggest to you, but it's also open for any suggestions that you would have. I'd like to give you all an opportunity to talk with each other about anything that you would like to add.
Okay.
Or change.
Item 4 is consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's do the conversation
Oh,
now. We
Okay.
want to do it now so it's not
Oh.
in a spot where you have to make
Oh,
motions.
okay.
It's just a
Okay.
free conversation at this point. So anything that anybody wants to add at this point, we'd be glad to entertain.
We had previously mentioned the possibility of having a category of honorary recognition. Not something that would have to be done every year, but something that could be considered for those that did not fit the criteria of being a Garrard County graduate necessarily, but that had met or had furthered education in Garrard County. So I would like us to think about that again.
Anybody else?
Are you talking about that would be in addition to, like, we're having 5 on here, but per year, you talking about that being in
I
addition
would see
to,
it
or
in
one of the
addition.
5?
It could be, no, I don't really think it should say that. I think it could be in addition. And it should not, well, I shouldn't say should. may not be an annual recognition.
Anybody else? Okay.
So can I ask you,
Please.
so would we want to add that a candidate may be considered for induction if they like graduated prior to the merger? Is that what you're asking, Ms. Davis, or?
I don't think it's necessarily prior, it could just be anyone who's impacted education in Garrett County, but it's not necessarily a Garrett County graduate.
I got you.
So it could be prior to that, but we may have somebody else that comes up in the next several years that has contributed in such a way that recognition would be nice.
So just a little, there's a little word that we put in there that says, or have left.
Yeah.
And I think the intent of the committee from that perspective was, like, as you alluded to, and I don't know if that's what you're getting at, like if a person spent 30 years in Garrett County schools and then they left and spent 1 year at another district and retired. So they left before either retiring or graduating is kind of where that was what they were thinking when we discussed that component. So I don't know if that fits what you're looking for, or.
I guess I'm thinking of people that weren't necessarily teachers. Let's just take it.
The coaches, Buster.
No, I mean, but we had a legislator that just did a whole lot for Garrett County, provided opportunities for us. So they just enabled some things to happen in Garrett County that would not have happened without their input or their guidance or recognition of us as a district. So you're asking me some questions I haven't thought through. So I guess I'm gonna have to be more precise. But I've been in an organization before that recognized people, and yet they had an honorary section, and it was just, it sort of caught anyone who had contributed to the greatness in Garrett, but in a different way.
So are you looking for individuals that have impacted the district regardless of whether they graduated from
Exactly.
Garrett County High School or not?
Yes.
Or whether they were a teacher or an employee of the school district? It's just an individual that has impacted the education in Garrett County.
Yes.
That's why you added the honorary.
Yes, because I don't think it should be an annual either.
Right.
Because you're not looking for someone that's every year to fulfill this, but if someone has impacted and made a difference in education that was not a graduate of Garrett County at any point, or had even left, but the particular organization I'm sort of patterning is that, where we actually had a legislature that had made a big difference and had contributed to this organization, but really wasn't a member of the organization. So I remember, so that's where I came up with this thought that there are people that have given a lot of time and effort and support our district, and they don't fit in these categories. So that's why they have to be honorary.
So see what y'all think about this then. If we put a candidate may be considered for induction as an honorary into the Garrett County Schools Hall of Fame as a contributor that has positively impacted education in Garrett County.
That sounds good tonight to me, but I'm gonna think about it,
Okay.
and then I'll say it. Let me think on that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I had a question that came to me from the community, and it was, how are we funding this event? How do we fund this?
So one of the things that happened following our first event was a donation was made of $5,000. And we have wanted to use that as seed money to reinitiate an education foundation and have the education foundation be the ones who then pay for this type of event moving forward. I've actually reached out to an individual about helping us head that up. It's an individual who has background in nonprofit, which is what this would be. And the foundation would allow us to be outside of the school district's responsibility. And then they could be the keepers of, so to speak, the funding of this. But they would also be looking at doing other things inside the district to support either things like a scholarship for a student who might say, I want to be a teacher, who they would scholarship and then have them come back and work for us for a period of time. Or perhaps it's running a summer program that's not just remediation for students, but an opportunity to advance in a way that we haven't had to make that available. So there's been this intent on our part to eventually get to this, and we think that seed money puts it in place where that can happen, and that funding then stops having to be anything connected to the district. It has an outside funding source.
And the seed money is already in the district?
It's here now. We have it in an account set aside specifically to move over to this foundation once it's there. There was a little bit of money that had been given prior to that, that we had started to set that up. So we have money in place to do that.
Anything else? We're ready to move to the consent agenda? All right. Unless any board member wants to pull anything out of the consent agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as it is presented.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Thank you. Mr. Smith made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hart seconded. Any questions? All in favor, let me know by lifting hand. All board members in favor, the consent agenda is adopted as printed. And item 5 is the action agenda, and item A is to approve a pay application.
We're getting closer and closer to finalizing all the pay applications for the new facility at Garrard County High School. We have a pay application this month for $384,335.51 going to the 4 entities that you see listed there. For 3 of the 4, this will clear them. Their retainage is being released and will be down, I believe, to only 2 companies that we're still dealing with. And we have a meeting set up with our architect and our construction management team to work through some pieces that we need to with those other groups. So based on that information, it's my recommendation that you approve the pay applications for the GCHS project.
Thank you, sir. You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the pay applications for this project.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hart made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Smith seconded. Any questions? All in favor, let me know by lifting your hand. All board members were in favor. Item A is approved. Item B is to approve the tax rate for 26.
We've advertised the tax rate for 2 weeks in the central record as required by us. We're no longer required to have a hearing. And in this case, we are proposing a reduction in the tax rate for real estate from 62.6 cents to 62.5. Not a large reduction, but again, another reduction from your all's perspective. Personal property tax would stay at the same level, 64 cents. The motor vehicle tax would be 55.1, and that's set by the state. We don't have the opportunity to make any changes with that. Based on that information, it's my recommendation that you approve the tax rate for the 2026 tax year.
Thank you, sir. You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the tax rate as presented.
Thank you. Dr. Lamb made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hart seconded. All in favor, let me know by lifting hand. All board members were in favor. The tax rate is approved. Item C is to approve community forum.
Yeah, I'm coming to you tonight to ask if you would be willing to approve some community forums across the county to talk to the community about issues that they have raised relative to the idea of construction of a gym. We've been having to say no to them about that, and we haven't always been able to be as clear with them about how we are at that spot. So my recommendation to you all is that you approve some community forums, and we'll establish dates and locations to follow with that, but this would allow us to move forward with that if that's something the board is willing to do. And that is my recommendation, that you approve these community forums.
Thank you, sir. You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve community forums.
Okay. Ms. Davis made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Smith seconded. Any questions? Comments? All in favor, let me know by lifting hand. The community forums are approved. Item D is to approve creation of special education position for Lancaster Elementary for the next school year.
The numbers at Lancaster are already clearly above caseload. Ms. Congleton has reviewed that with Ms. Middleton, and they're aware of the situation. This is an IDEA funded position that we'll be asking you to create, and it's a necessary thing for us to do for Lancaster Elementary for this school year. It doesn't mean it'll be a permanent position, but it does mean it would last through this year. So it's my recommendation that you approve creating an additional special ed position for Lancaster Elementary for the 25-26 school year.
Thank you, sir. You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the creation of a special education position for Lancaster Elementary for the 25-26 school year.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hart made the motion. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Ms. Davis seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor, let it be known by lifted hand. All board members were in favor. Item D is to approve. Item E is to approve an amended UK healthcare contract.
For the last several years, UK Health has provided
Certified
Thank you.
electric.
a certified individual to take care of all of our athletes, to make sure that we have a trainer on site. Last spring, we asked you to allow us to look at hiring somebody on our own. We didn't have any luck with that. We told you we would come back to UK. The individual who'd been working for us from UK has moved to Wisconsin. So at this time, we have no trainer, but UK is still looking for a trainer for us, and we need to approve an amended contract. And the amending of the contract is in two areas. One is in the amount of pay that we would be obligated to provide to UK, and the other is in the time frame in which we would pay them. Last year, we let something get through that was our mistake, and that was that we were paying them at the beginning of the semester and halfway through. It should be halfway through and at the end, following the completion of their service. So even though we don't have someone in place right now, we continue to hope that we'll have that. And so we need to have this contract ready to go. So it's my recommendation that you approve the amended UK Health contract.
Thank you, sir. By the way, it doesn't get any better, sir.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
All right, you've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the amended UK Health contract.
Thank you. Mr. Hurt made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Smith second. All in favor, let it be known by lifted hand. All board members were in favor. The amended contract is approved. Item F is to approve a contract for a part-time public relations position.
That's not why we recognize Sydney tonight by any stretch of the imagination or anything like that. But I did mention to you the fact that we have an incredible amount of technology that's been added to the district in the last 18 months or so. And we feel like we've put a lot of pressure on our PR department to try to take care of that, because our PR department is primarily Sydney Ray. And that's probably not been fair on our part. So what we would like to propose doing for 1 year to see how this works is creating a part-time position to support that area. It's 88 days with 44 days of travel. Total contract cost would be $29,240.20. And we would enter this agreement effective tomorrow. When we enter agreements like this, we know specifically who we're talking about. You see the name of the individuals, Priscilla Bearline. We believe that she would bring some significant strength to the area of photography from the work that she's done, and most of you know who she is and are familiar with her. So we would like to attempt to do this and see if this brings some additional support in all of those areas that I mentioned earlier. So it's my recommendation to you that you approve a part-time public relations position for the 25-26 school year.
Thank you, sir. You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the part-time public relations contract.
Mr. Smith made the motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Ms. Davis second. And is this going to help Sydney?
Sydney, is this going to help you? Yes, it is. But more importantly than just helping her, when I was talking about what is happening with all of our digital signs, this is going to allow us to be much more active in making sure that they are doing what we want them to do in a timely fashion.
Thanks, sir.
And it's funded approve.
This is general fund.
Anybody else? All in favor, let me know by lifting hand. All board members were in favor. Item F is approved. Item G is to approve a contract for part-time football trainer.
So circling back to what we were talking about earlier, we do not currently have a trainer. And we realize that anytime we do something for one group, it raises questions about another. But we also understand that typically in the past, the sport that has created the most potential for injury and harm to the student has been football. And what we would like to do for the Friday night portion of football is provide a part-time trainer. This is a licensed individual who would be able to go on the field and determine whether or not a student had suffered a concussion and needed to go into that protocol, if they had an injury to the neck or back or anything of that nature. Currently, if we do not have this in place, if somebody gets hurt and there's a question, we simply have to take the athlete off the field and they cannot go back on the field because we don't have anybody to certify that. We're talking about $2,640 to do this as we continue to look for somebody to be a full-time person for us this year or in the future. But for the temporary time, we'd like to consider Jordan Crutchfield, who is licensed, has her own LLC to do this work. This would not be a stretch for her in any fashion. Most of you know she works in the emergency room all the time, so she deals with this type of situation. And I don't want to say this would be easy for her, but it would not be a challenge for her. So it's my recommendation that you approve the contract for a part-time football trainer for the 25-26 school year.
Thanks, sir. You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the contract for the part-time football trainer.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hurt made the motion. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Ms. Davis, second. Any questions? All in favor? All board members were in favor. Item G is
Can I
approved.
stop?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Stone, would you want to speak, Dr. Stone, would you want to speak at how, that we talked about today, how the other sports are being dealt with in the protocols that are being used so that the public knows?
Sure. So currently, if all of anybody in the public thinks back to the way life was when they were an athlete, it's pretty similar to that. Our coaches no longer can hand a student off to be taped by a trainer. They're doing the taping. If there's a minor injury, they have to look at what that protocol would be. Some of you sitting here have been coaches or the spouse of a coach, and you know what that looks like. And that's currently what we have. The Kentucky High School Athletic Association recommends a trainer. It's not a requirement that we have the trainer. The board has been very generous for the past many years to create that spot and allow that to happen, and that's always been appreciated. And our hope is to go back to that. We do not want to stay in the spot that we're in. But to Ms. Davis's point, that's exactly what our coaches are having to do. They're picking up that extra load, and they're, as I was sharing earlier, if they have to make a decision, they're always going to err on behalf of the student and making sure the student is safe, not on getting the student back on the field.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Okay. Item H is to approve a Garrett County School Federal Program Information Handbook for 25-26.
Minimal change to our federal program handbook, but on a yearly basis, we need to ask for your approval. Dr. Gresham is here, and if you had questions about that, he can address that for you. But it's my recommendation that you approve of the Garrett County Schools Federal Program Information Handbook for 25-26.
Thank you, sir. You've heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve the Garrett County Federal Program Information Handbook.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Dr. Lamb seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor, let me know by lifted hand. All board members were in favor. Item H is approved. Item I is to approve change to the breakfast and lunch costs for adults in 2025-26.
This year, due to rising costs, Ms. Morrow has recommended a change in the adult breakfast price from $3.15 to $3.25 and a change in the adult lunch from $4.85 to $5.05. That stays in line with everything that is recommended to her from the state level. Based on that, it's my recommendation that you approve of the change in the adult breakfast and lunch prices for 2025-26.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the changes to the lunch, breakfast and lunch for adults.
Thank you. Ms. Davis made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hart seconded. Any questions?
I will.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I should have said this earlier. I interject, this has nothing to do with our students. They continue to be free as they have been. This is simply for adults. I just want to make sure that the community is aware of that. I should have said that
Well, thank
earlier.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? All in favor, let me know by lifting hand. All board members were in favor. It is approved. Item J is to approve revisions to the Garrett County Schools Hall of Fame guidelines.
And I'm going to suggest that we need to table this. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's still a little question about how that should play out. And we'll try to work through that before next month and put this back on if everybody's okay with that.
Do I have a motion to table?
I think that's nice. I think it gives us a little bit more.
You
Check
make-
the wording.
You make a motion to table to next month?
Yes, I'll be glad to make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Smith seconded, and that's tabled to next month. Oh, and we're down to executive session. Huh?
You didn't know.
Oh, we didn't vote? All in favor, let me know by lifting hand. Doesn't get any better, I told you.
We might not be sitting together next month.
Okay, executive session. I'll entertain a motion to move out of this session into executive session.
I'll make a motion to move into executive session.
Thank you, Dr. Lamb made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second. No, go ahead.
Ms. Davis seconded. All in favor? We're in executive session. Bear with us. I don't know how long this is gonna take, but
I wouldn't stay. I would go ahead and leave. Now, you're welcome to stay, and it may go
Yes,
quicker
sir.
than I think, but it may not.
Item M is to approve action following the executive session.
I make a motion to authorize board counsel to negotiate litigation as discussed in the executive session.
Thank you. Dr. Lamb made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hart seconded. All in favor, let me know by lifted hand. All board members were in favor. The action is approved, which brings us to item 6, is adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this.
Mr. Smith made the motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hurt seconded. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Could I have it?